Okay. Let me back up a little bit. I want you to walk away from tonight feeling empowered, not motivated, not excited, but like your hopes and dreams are a real possibility. So I want you to just take a deep breath. I want you to try to be in a place where you're not going to be distracted. If writing makes you distracted, feel free to just listen and then maybe watch it back later and do the writing portion, whatever makes you feel the best. I hesitate to use the phrase tonight that we're going to define your why, because I feel like that can cause a little PTSD in people. You've done vision boards before. You've cut out like a diamond and a beach house and an RV that you're traveling in, and then you've put it on your wall or as the screensaver on your phone. And then a year goes by and really not much changed. You're not that much closer to your goal than you were then. And then you're the reason you're saying why is, why am I doing this again? Right? Vision boards didn't inspire me. In fact, the emotion that I felt whenever I looked at my vision board was kind of depressed. Because make sure you can see. You all see that? Here I was over here. And here is where I want it to be. Notice, she's happy, she's not. She's not allowed to be happy until this happens, okay? My first vision board had 5 things on it. It had a picture of a second home. It had a picture of a beach house. It had a picture of a diamond, because I want to be diamond. It had a picture of a beautiful wedding, because I wanted to be able to afford to throw my daughter a dream wedding, both of my daughters. It had a typewriter on it because I wanted to be a published author. It had a red carpet on it because I was a professional actor, I still am, and I really wanted to be a series regular on a television series and had devoted my life to pursuing that. And I would look at those things and they would seem so far away, even though I had made progress. And it didn't excite me, it didn't motivate me, it made me feel bad inside my body, like helpless almost. So where was I going wrong with this? We are creatures of emotion. Our emotions produce either our action or our inaction. And our emotions are produced by our thoughts. So when we look at this girl over here and we have the thoughts, I don't know how to get there. I'll never get there. That seems impossible. Like it's not even like a straight line here. It's like I'm standing on this side of a chasm and she's standing on this side, and I have to be like some sort of superhero to get over there. That produces despair, defeat, depression, shame. And I don't know about you, but like none of those emotions produce activity in me. They produce avoidance, really. Now listen, you do have to know who this woman is. So these workshops that you've done before where you define your why, that is valuable because you have to have clarity on who you want to be. And some of you actually, like if you sat down, you're like, I actually don't know what I want. I don't know. I'm just going through life doing the next thing. You have to sit down and figure out what you desire and why you desire it. Because if you don't desire it, you're not going to work for it. Okay. But we have to go further than that because this is how this usually goes down. So let's just say this girl is named Gina. Okay. Gina has a 9-to-5. But this version of Gina gets to quit her 9-to-5 because she's making enough money as a Plexus Emerald to replace that income and then some. But right now, over here, Gina's gold. Ain't nothing wrong with being gold, but Gina's been gold for 3 years. She doesn't know how to not be gold. She wants to be emerald. She also is being Emerald while traveling around in an RV with her husband, seeing the country, which sounds like my personal idea of hell. But this is Gina. Gina wants to do that, okay? And Gina looks at this and she's like so motivated. She's so excited, especially because she did this exercise at convention. And so she's extra pumped and she's like leading, prayer circles of kumbaya and singing like, we're all in this together. And then 8 days later after convention, Gina's MIA. Her sponsor's like, where did Gina go? Where is she? It's that fast. Very similar to when Gina went to a youth retreat in high school and came home and threw away all of her rock music. And then on Monday was like, why did I do that? Not that I've ever done that. I see Gina's all the time. Sometimes I am Gina. And here's what I've noticed after 6 years of doing it. The more excited somebody is and the more jazzed somebody is at convention is almost directly proportionate to how fast they disappear when they get home. It's almost a science. And so what I kind of look for now is the people that are at convention that are just sort of nodding their heads slowly and they're calm, because I feel like they understand that this takes commitment and they don't rely on emotion. So maybe you began your social selling business from a place of like high excitement or even a goal outside of plexus. You began with motivation and that got you to right about there, the overlook of the chasm. And then you looked into the chasm. Maybe you had some setbacks. Maybe it's taking you longer than you thought. Maybe somebody blocked you because you reached out to them. Maybe somebody commented on your post something mean. Maybe your family is like, you're crazy. Maybe you had some disappointments. And when those add up, you begin, or here's another one that I see all the time. People start fast and they're like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And then they go backward because they don't take the time to learn how to develop underneath them. And then they get depressed. And it diminishes your desire for this. And when our desire diminishes, we stop working. You start saying to yourself, well, I don't have to go Emerald. It's fine. I'm okay, like with my 9 to 5. I don't have to put my 9 to 5. I don't need extra money. And the other thing you begin to do is you begin to micro quit. You don't say that you're done, but you begin to say like, I don't really need to show up today because what's the point if I show up today? What's one day going to do? And so you don't show up in a non-negotiable way because you're never going to get there anyway. And you stop viewing this with importance and you say, this isn't that bad, but it is, or you wouldn't have begun this in the first place. So how do you combat this? Rather than attaining what and worrying about attaining this what, these are all outcomes, by the way, you have to focus on becoming the who. And the who does not have a cape. She's not a superhero. She a bridge builder. And she loves the process of building this bridge one plank at a time. Okay? You have to be so in love with your process of bridge building that it almost becomes unnecessary for you to achieve the what, because you're so much enjoying building the bridge. And every day you're laying one plank in place and you're nailing it firmly in place and you're sanding it down. You have to know what the big what is, but only so that you can define what each plank is. Okay, and then put her away for a sec. Put her in the closet and focus on the planks. You have to know what. This is you in 2030. That's scary. You have to know what the girl in 2030 was doing every day in 2023. And it may not seem like that much. You're going to look at it and be like, what? That's it? Yes, it is. And that is how you figure out what your daily plank looks like. Okay. So let's just take a look at this. I'm going to use me as an example. We'll leave Gina behind. We're going to talk about me. If I wanted to be a diamond, and I want to be a professional artist that's either a series regular on a television show, or more lately, I want to write content that my family can produce and star in. Okay. And I want to have a really great personal life too. So if I'm going to be the CEO of my own company, if I want to be a diamond, I have to behave like a CEO now before I really am one. And a CEO might invest in business coaching because she needs to know what to do in her daily time that she sticks to. And she needs to get better at things that she's not good at. She invests money into coaching. If you're not investing money into coaching, I think because you're waiting to have the money to invest in coaching, you're never going to have the money to invest. Okay. Now there's a lot that plexus within, but you might need a life coach. You might need a therapist. Okay. So I invest in that. And the reason I do that is because I set up an LLC for my company, and I know what my business money is, and I know what my personal money is. I don't spend every dime I make. A lot of it I invest right back into my business. I invest in it. She has a virtual assistant, by the way. She doesn't try to do it all herself. She's a virtual assistant. She's putting together systems to automate so that eventually when she's off doing this is still happening. She has a regularly scheduled time to create content that adds value in the world. She doesn't just post on the fly. She has a time where she's like, this is when I create all of my content for the following week. She has regular business hours, and she doesn't let things get in the way of it. So for example, when somebody calls me and says, Kel, let's go to lunch, I say, I would so love to go to lunch. Do you know what? I go to lunch on Fridays because Friday is my fun Friday. And on Friday afternoons, because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I work my plexus business from 8 to 10 and then again from 1 to 4. So on Friday, that's when I get my nails done. That's when I might get a massage. That's when I might have a therapy appointment. That's when I go to coffee. That's when I go to lunch. That's when I do all of that. I don't just willy-nilly go get my nails done on a Tuesday. That's not what a CEO does. They're too busy. They're too focused. Okay, so I define, and you have to really drill down, and we don't have time to do that right now, but you drill really down and figure out what are these things that this person was doing in 2023 to become who she was in 2030. And then you make those part of your daily plan. Kelly, the actress, Kelly, the artist, she leaves time in her afternoon to prepare or execute auditions that might come her way. And sometimes they come last minute, but it's no problem because she leaves time for those just in case. She works out 4 to 5 times a week because she needs to look good on camera. She takes her supplements so that she looks good on camera. She takes her E's so she has cheekbones. She eats this. She doesn't eat that. All right. She gets coaching on dialects before she ever has an audition that requires a dialect. That's what artist Kelly in 2030 did back in 2023. Writer Kelly does something different that I'll tell you about in a minute. Personal Kelly knows that if she's still married in 2030, these will have a greater impact in the world. So you know what she does? She goes to therapy so that her husband doesn't have to carry her baggage around. She takes time every morning to sit with her husband. They have a time from 7:30 to 8 where they read a devotion and they pray for their family. And then she has a 15-minute time right after dinner where they do a few more things to check in with each other. She does that. She schedules it in. She does a lot of the same things as actress Kelly, but for different reasons. She intentionally schedules time for friendship. And you know when she schedules it? Fun Friday. Look at that. I got so specific about who I needed to be each and every day to even have a shot at becoming this. And then I figured out how long each thing would take, and I put it onto a schedule. Right? When am I going to do this? When am I going to have my business hours? When am I going to exercise? Exactly when? And here's what that did. It shined a light on what I shouldn't be doing. So an example, at the time, I had a really thriving child acting coaching business 3 or 4 years ago. I would spend 3 or 4 hours a day. Kids would come to my house. I would coach them for their auditions for film and television, or I would consult parents on how to do with their kids what I've done with mine. And I was good at it. And people came from all over Atlanta, and people would Zoom with me from Los Angeles or Texas or Miami or wherever. But it was taking 3 to 4 hours of my afternoon. And I was like, after I put all this on my schedule, I'm like, those 3 to 4 hours, I don't have those. I don't have those. And also, this person, who she wasn't coaching child actors in 2023. It had nothing to do with who she wanted to become. It was a way to make money, but it really had nothing to do with who she wanted to become. And I was making enough money with Plexus that I didn't need it anymore. So I shut it down. And lest you think that was easy for me, people were mad at me. People were upset with me. People were actually a little bit, some of them were offended. Like, well, you don't mean my kid, right? And so it took me a couple false starts to actually shut it down, because I would say to people like, well, okay, I'll coach your kid, but like, don't tell anybody. But then finally I was like, I don't even enjoy this. I don't enjoy this. And I shut it down. You may be doing things and you don't even know why. It's just that you're good at them. But guess what? Women are good at whatever they want to be good at. So you may be doing things because people expect it of you, and you have zero clue that you should no longer be doing them, but you keep doing it because it's what you've always done. So step 1, get clear on what this is. Step 2, figure out what that person was doing every single day 7 years earlier, and that is your daily plank. Okay, now what's going to happen is, like, what you might be thinking is, if I'm really building a bridge and I just put 1 plank in a day, I'm just going to stand there and be like, that doesn't seem like very much. But what's going to happen is you're going to feel so good after just completing that 1 little plank. It will be pleasurable for you. And when things are pleasurable, we repeat them, which is a principle that I learned in the most transformational book I read in 2022, this book. If you make a habit pleasurable, you will repeat it. So that's why, like, maybe in your CEO block, some of you, like, here's what you do. You like put 95 things on it, and it's not sustainable, and therefore it's not enjoyable. So you don't repeat it. Make it less so that you can complete it. And then you've had the pleasure of, I just kept a promise to myself. I can trust myself. Okay. Finally, you need the 3rd W. We have the what, we've got the who, you need the whip. You need some external accountability. You need some external coaching, because there may be things that you're not good at yet, and you need to learn how to get good at them. And then you need to give someone permission to call you out on your crap and say, hey, I'm hearing a lot of, I'm fine, it's okay. It's just like, it's so busy right now. It's just a crazy time in my life. And say, whoa, 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 whoa. Remember her? All you got to do today is lay 1 plank, just 1. I'm going to give you a very vulnerable anecdote in my life. I'm going to talk for about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to actually do something, guys. So, and the reason that hesitate to share this is because what I'm doing, not really many people know about, and I actually don't want many people to know this about me, because I'm more about being about things and not telling anybody what I'm about. But for a very long time, I wanted to write a book that is based on my blog, Life in the Honey Wagon, which is geared towards stage parents. And I wanted to write a book about my family's journey through the shark-infested waters of Hollywood. Writing is my favorite thing to do. I lose track of all time when I'm writing. It's my jam. And I thought to myself, well, of course I can write a book. People love my writing and I love to write. Therefore, this will be easy. And I even tried to be like, okay, Stephen King says that he has an appointment with his typewriter every morning at 9 to noon. So maybe that's what I should do. And so that's what I did. And I would sit down, and because I didn't have a whip, I didn't have any coaching on like really the bite-sized steps to write a book. And I didn't have anybody holding my feet to the fire to write the book. I sat down and I had no idea what I was doing. And it was uncomfortable. And if I had writer's block, I was uncomfortable and I didn't like how it felt. And so I would find any excuse to avoid that block of time in my life, even though I wanted so badly to be over here. And I would like, oh, wow, you need me? Oh, well, sorry, book. They need me. And off I would go. Some of you buffer your Plexus business with Netflix. I was buffering writing with my Plexus business because I was getting quick results there and it gave me like a dopamine hit. And I failed miserably. So cut to a few years later, I got a word from the Lord and he was like, hey, remember her? The one that wanted to like share with the world what was going on and point up to me. And I said, yeah, I failed. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I really feel like that's a television series. And I said, well, if I don't know how to write a book, how am I going to know how to write a television series? And he's like, I don't know, maybe learn. And so through a series of serendipitous events that I don't have time to share with you, but it was totally God, I ended up at the age of 52 back in screenwriting school with a bunch of 22-year-olds. And I was intimidated. I had imposter syndrome. I was still her, looking over at her. But I walk into the first day of class, and guess what one of the books in the curriculum was? And I was like, Atomic Habits, that's a network marketing book, isn't it? No. It's a book for flaky artists. And it was like they knew that the most important thing we needed to learn was the becoming, how to develop the habit of being a writer, first of all, and that maybe we needed to pair it with something pleasurable so that we would actually repeat the habit. And then it was almost more important than the technique of how to write a screenplay. And it was in this the mentorship class where I learned I've got to make this habit pleasurable, because if it was pleasurable, I would repeat it. And I wanted to repeat it because I had a whip. I refused to walk in that class and get an F, even at 52. That was just unacceptable to me. So I was like, okay, calm down, Kelly. You don't have to be here right now. All you have to do is show up to class and do the assignment they give you for the week. That's all you have to do. That's one plank. So week 1, you need to come up with 5 ideas for a screenplay. Okay, all right. I mean, I could do that. And you need to, the next week, it was like, you need to pitch 3 of them to the class. All right, I can do that. And here's what I did. I decided to make it pleasurable that every night after dinner, after my family time at 7 o'clock, I would get to go up and take a hot bubble bath, get my head together, put on nice jammies, and I would get in my bed, which is my favorite place on planet Earth. And I would do my one assignment. And when I was done, I would get to watch 1 episode of the show I was watching, and then I would go to bed. And I would do the 1 assignment. And the first night I did it, I was like, well, that wasn't so hard. That's all I have to do to lay a plank. That was actually kind of cool. I kind of want to do more, but no, just 1. And I looked forward to it the next night. And I looked forward to it the next night. And do you know, and each night I was like, that didn't really seem like I did that much. Do you know that doing that over and over and again, in one semester and the little bit that we've done so far, I have a plot point. I have an entire feature film plotted out and act one written. I did more by doing less and making it pleasurable and having a whip than I've ever accomplished before on my own. Some of you are only looking at her, and you got to look at this. Remember what the keynote speaker said too on Super Saturday. Some of you feel like you can't be happy till you're her. No, you've got to be happy. I'm in love with the 30 minutes. As soon as I get off this call, that's what I'm going to do, my 30 minutes. I'm so in love with the process that I'm so busy laying one plank at a time that one day I'm going to look up and realize, hey, I'm over here. It just happened. It's a byproduct. All right. Who's ready to do some work on themselves? What I want you to do is I want you to get your notebook out or just close your eyes and think. You can always revisit this on your own. I want you to get out your journal. I'm going to turn on some music. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to give you some prompts. And we're going to cover 3 areas. Your personal life, your one goal that maybe you have outside of Plexus, because I hope you have goals that include living out your divine purpose that only you can live out, and then Plexus. All right, here we go. Hang on a second. Oops. All right, as we begin, first of all, can you hear me and music? What is one thing you want to do outside? You want to travel the world? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to start a foundation? What is that one thing? I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna give you a quiet minute. Okay, we'll have silence. What are you doing in 2030? How are you spending your day? Who are you spending it with? Are you retired? So this covers your personal life, your family life, and your goal probably outside of Plexus. What are you doing? Who are you serving? Who are your best friends? Wait, I'll be back. Okay. Let's talk about your plexus business now. In the next 4 to 5 minutes, I want you to think about in 2030, 7 years from now. If you can't get that far, do 5 years from now. What rank are you? How many people are in your organization? Are you a leader? How do you show up on social media? How do you handle setbacks? How does that person solve for distraction? There's a bunch of prompts there. I'll give you some more time to just write it all down. Okay. Moving on. It's time to build a bridge. Some of you might feel like the bridge looks like that. Some of you might think it looks like that. But look, it's only planks. It's only wooden planks. So let's start with your personal life, your family. So for example, and I don't want you to feel like you have to put 95 things in each plank. It is better to do less consistently and not overwhelm yourself. So I want you to maybe find 3 things that in 2023 you can incorporate. Maybe you're already doing some of them. So for example, for my family, I want to make sure that I devote 20 minutes in the morning reading a devotion and praying with Mark, and 15 minutes in the evening doing a check-in with specific tenants. Those are non-negotiable. I deliberately call or text at least 1 child a day, and try to hit all 4 every week. I keep a prayer journal, and I circle my family in prayer deliberately, and I I budget religiously because I know that that'll help me take care of my family and have them not have to take care of me later. So those are just some ideas. Like, what does this person do? Does she have regular therapy in her budget? Does she do a fun Friday? What do you do for self-care? So take a couple minutes and figure out who you want to be in your family and what are some simple planks you can lay every day. And I'll give you a couple minutes for that. Next up, let's take a look at somebody asked, is sober like not drinking? For me personally, I can't drink if I want to be this person. It just will not happen. And so 10 years ago, I gave up alcohol completely because I wanted to be this person. That doesn't mean you have to do it. It just means that's what I had to do. Okay. All right, let's take a look at your outside goal. You know, pick one or two things that you need to do to become the artist, the second business owner, the grandmother, the whatever it is for you. What is one or two things that you need to fit into your day to become that person? These are just my examples. I'll just have silence for a minute because I want to get to plexus. All right, because I want to get to plexus. Let's move on. What is your plexus plank? What do you have to do and what can you do? Just because I spend about 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours a day on plexus doesn't mean that's what you do. I didn't do that back at the beginning. Maybe for you, it's a non-negotiable time to plan content and post 1 to 2 times a week. Maybe that's all you can fit in right now. And you think, well, that's not enough. So therefore it's not worth doing, but that's a lie. If you did that every day or every week for a full year, I guarantee you'd be further along than you are now. All right, so this is my plexus plank. What is yours? Let's take 3 minutes to come up with that. Also, I know we have some people on that aren't with plexus, so I apologize for not using your pronouns. Okay, Leslie asked, what is the difference between mindset management and personal development? They're two facets of the same thing. Personal development might read a book or listen to a podcast, but mindset management, this is maybe the most important thing I've added to my routine. It's something I learned from Brooke Castillo of the Life Coach School, and then even deeper with Kristen Voss of the Social Selling Academy. And like my perfect plexus day is in this notebook. She has a 90-day goal getter challenge. Some of the content I share with you tonight is stuff I got from her too, just in full disclosure. But this lists everything that I do in a day, but one of them is managing my thoughts. And if you don't learn to manage your thoughts, you're going to be done before you start. You have to learn that your thoughts create your emotions and your emotions create your action or inaction. So every day, that's why if you're in my consistent copy group, that's why I do change your thought Thursday, because it's so amazing what happens when you change your thoughts. You all of a sudden find yourself doing things you wouldn't have done before. So every morning I coach my own brain on something to do with my plexus business and something to do with myself as an artist. Okay. And so I do that first before I move on. All right. So that's the difference. All right. One more question. Two more questions. I'm sorry. Two more questions and then a final thing and then we'll be done. What is one thing in 2023 that needs to go? What has got to go? What are you doing? Because everyone's like, oh, Kim's so good. Kim, you're so good at that. Leslie, who else will do it if you don't? Answer, lots of people. But Christina, I don't know how I'll survive if you don't plan the church Christmas bazaar. I don't know. One thing that's got to go. And then finally, where are you going to find your whip? Who is going to be your whip? Is it a coaching program you're going to sign up for? Is it your upline? Maybe. If it is, brilliant. But guess what? It's not always. It doesn't have to be. If you don't click and resonate with your direct sponsor, and sometimes like if they're your best friend, it's not even a good idea for them to be your whip. Who are you going to, and here's the thing, if you're still just letting your upline chase you down, you're never going to grow. You will only start growing when you are the one that goes to them and says, here is what I'm going to do. And it's more than what you told me to do. Okay. Who's your whip? What do you got to get rid of? All right. As we close, I want you to just put your pen down and I want you to just close your eyes. This is something I directly got from Kristen Voss, by the way, because it was really powerful when I did it. So I thought it might help you. I want you to walk into a room like you're an interviewer in your mind, and you're going to interview your future self that you just created, the you of 2030. I want you to see how they're being in the room. Are they confident? Do people see them as a leader? What is their outlook on life? Are they always complaining, or are they seeing the positive? Are they excited to wake up every day? How do they dress? How does the you of 2030 handle when someone misunderstands them? If you were to ask them their daily habits, what would they say? Remember, this is the older, wiser version of you that has all the results that you just wrote down. How does that person handle rejection, setbacks, and distractions? And if you were to say, hey, tell me your thoughts on failure, what would they say? Now let's walk out of that room. Let's walk into another room where the current you is, the one that has not achieved all of this yet. When this version of you is looking at that you 5 years from now, what does your current self have to say about it? And I don't want you to judge yourself. I don't want you to censor yourself. Are they scared? Are they anxious? Are they worried that they're not going to be able to pull it off? And I want you to watch your future self kneel down and get eye level with your current self. and watch them have compassion on you and thank you for getting you to the point where you're at now, because where you're at now is not nothing. The current you got you to where you are. But now it's time for current you to grow and do something different. But future you has compassion and says, I see the future. I see what is here for you. This part of you that we're thinking about right now is the part of you that works really hard to keep you safe, to keep you from stepping out of your comfort zone and taking risks and living big. It really wants you to live small. And I want you to hear the final thing your future you says to you. You don't have to be me yet. All you need to do tomorrow is nail down one plank, just one. And the next day you need to nail down one more. And the outcome will be a byproduct of this. The me that you see in 5 years is totally possible because you see clearly who I am. You've defined me. You've defined what your plank in the bridge across the chasm is. And you found a kind whip to keep you building. I'm really honored to have shared this hour with you. It inspired me. I hope it inspired you. And I encourage you to watch this back and make each segment clearer than you think it needs to be. Make it less rather than more, specific, and have compassion for yourself along the journey. I'm going to put a link in the comments for you to be on my mailing list if you'd like to hear about things that I may do about this in the future. Someone asked, am I doing another consistent copy course? Yes, I will. Because we are all in this together, building our bridges side by side. And finding my evenness. There it is. I'm so glad it was exactly what you needed. Thanks so much. And good night.